Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. There are so many of you. I am Jonah. I'm one of the founders of the space Reference Point. We are a library, bookshop, and bar dedicated to making accessible, hard-to-find, out-of-print visual literature. Library Science have curated a shelf in the bookshop with just the most exceptional selection of works, so you can buy all of those. But both Kaia and Gabriel are far more interesting than me, so I'm going to pass over the mic to them. But I'd just like to say thank you so much and give them a big round of applause.
Thank you everyone for coming. I was really going to intro Gabriel and say a bunch of nice things, but he's sitting right next to me, so that would be maybe weird. So I guess what I will tell you is Gabriel is 28 years old and he lives in London. His work has been featured in The Drift, New York Tyrant Magazine, and The Moth. You don't get to know what I'm saying, right?
Okay, so.
And Brat, which is his debut novel, the novel we'll be talking about today, will be followed by The Complete, his second novel, based on his O. Henry Prize-winning short story of the same name. A little bit about Brat. Brat is a sort of wild debut of a novel. It is part ghost story, part grief story. It is glitchy, fragmented, and haunting. And we meet our, some might say, ill-tempered protagonist at a low moment. The Gabriel of our novel, not to be confused with the Gabriel sitting next to me, is mourning the death of his father and also a recent breakup. He's also struggling to finish writing his book. Alone and aimless, he agrees to move back into his parents' house to help clear it out for sale. As the moldy, overgrown house deteriorates around him, so does his own health. And large sheets of his skin start peeling off of his body at a terrifying rate. And Gabriel takes us on a surreal journey into the mysteries of the family home, where he finds unfinished manuscripts and screenplays written by his parents that seem to alter every time he reads them. There's also a bizarre sort of home video that appears. And it will be yours on June 4th, or if you go to the bar after this, it will be yours today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gabriel, how long did it take you to write this novel?
I wrote it in summer 2019. So I think from like June through October. I don't know how many months that is. Like June, July, August. Yeah, 5.
5.
It's had quite a long journey to publication. So the version that was done then is quite different from the version that's done now.
The protagonist in Brat is also called Gabriel. Why did you choose to make the name character have the same name as you?
I don't want to mention the word autofiction, but...
You're going to?
I was conscious at the time that if I didn't have an element of that it would be construed as like, because it's a horror novel, right? Like it's a genre novel. To do that stuff without some autofictional elements. When I was writing it, I don't know if this is still true when it's coming out now. I don't know that would have played so well. So that was part of the choice. Then the other thing is there's a lot of embedded like stories within the novel, right? So it's like a Russian doll novel. It's like a Russian doll structure. So I wanted to have a Russian doll that expanded outwards as well.
And do you feel any similarities with the Gabriel of the novel?
Yeah, because he's me.
So yes.
Yeah, but no, he's not. He's not. But no,
But
our parents have the same names.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an
there's-
autobiography about.
It's kind of like my life, but much worse. Yeah.
Speaking of names, can you tell us why you chose to call the novel Brat?
It's the novel's first editor
Mhm.
was Jean-Carlo de Trafno of Flirts, who was gonna put it out, but passed in 2021. Like 6 weeks before he announced it, and he would always say, when we were working on it, this guy's such a brat. So it like had a different name when we were working on it, he said the same thing about me, and then when I didn't like what he wanted to eat, I was like, yeah, like, oh, you don't want to eat shrimp? Like, oh, you're such a
You're
brat.
such a brat.
Yeah. So it, when we were struggling for a title in like, I don't know, last year, whenever we were prepping it to send out to publishers, I just want
All
to
you could hear
that.
was him calling you a brat on the.
Well,
in your mind.
mainly the character. He's
Yeah.
like such a waspy little fucking brat.
Okay, so, and how do you feel about your first novel sort of being labeled as body horror? Was that something that you intentionally set out to produce? Did that kind of come from people's interpretations of it? And did you intend for it to fall into this genre?
I definitely wanted to do something that was... Writing a novel is really hard, and I hadn't written one before.
I've never done it, can't imagine.
It's okay, but like it sucks. Like it's really hard. But horror is something where like all of the ingredients are there already, and you just hit the notes. And there's such a big tradition in like filmmaking, where to cut your teeth, you make a horror movie because it's got the strongest genre tropes of like any format. Like, you do this, you do this, you do this. Part of me was like, yeah, I want to work in a genre where hitting the notes is really easy.
So sort of on the topic of horror, let's talk about Gabriel's skin peeling off, not this Gabriel who's fully intact, but the Gabriel almost intact, but the Gabriel of the novel. There's a moment at the top of the book where he pulls sort of a large part of his skin off and then he washes it down the drain. This kind of continues throughout the story. Was this a reference to anxiety or maybe the dreams that we have of our teeth falling out, or was it something else entirely?
It's one of those things that has hit different people in really different ways. It's been really prismatic, which I like people see different things in it. That's cool. I didn't know what it was starting out. And I have a different answer every time someone asks. That's the other problem with it. The answer right now is that it did end up mirroring the structure of the novel, where it's things embedded in things, and then he's eventually, after all of it, just the same guy, which sucks. And he's got to make peace with that. So that's part of it that I quite liked about the image. The other part is that I was brought up vegetarian, right? So like meat was always disgusting to me, and like I'd been learning about meat, and I think I had to peel like something off a rack of ribs or something. It was really disgusting for a friend's barbecue, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. So that was one of the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to be vegetarian, go to cook a raw chicken or something, and then I think it will quickly sort of turn you.
That shit is disgusting.
So gross.
I know.
I also love that sort of as Gabriel's skin is peeling off, the house is deteriorating kind of at the same time. Can we talk a little bit about the symbolism of that and the duality kind of his skin peeling off in the house, sort of the walls are quite literally peeling off at the same time? Do you think they inform each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I work in doubles all the time. Everything I do, whether it's a short story or a novel, has to have a double. So any character has to have its opposite. Any opposite, and you ever see that meme of like?
The answer is probably yes,
yeah,
unfortunately.
Like Luigi is the inversion of Mario, but Wario is the inversion of Mario as well, and then Waluigi is the inversion of the inversion. So with Jenny, I'm not fucking with you, but like everything I do, like every character I put in every image, like with the house and the plants, they all have to have their opposites and their inversion of their opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it gives people a buzz. I think it makes people tick.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably how stories work. I think it's probably old news to a lot of people who listen to this, but it's like, I think it's just how it works.
Yeah.
So with the what was it? The plants and the deterioration of his body.
I mean, there's the
deterioration
of
of
the
his
house and the body and the plants.
Yeah, so everything had to match up with, and again, it's a genre trope. Like in a haunted house novel, the house has to get increasingly fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also love that sort of simultaneously, while Gabriel lacks the ambition to take care of himself, he is deeply, deeply committed to taking care of the plants in the house. And so while maybe he doesn't remember to eat or shower or do anything to take care of himself, he is always concerned about these plants. Was that intentional, or did that just sort of happen when writing this character?
So I guess people who haven't read it.
Everyone,
yeah. The like haunted house in the book is been attacked by plants seemingly from the outside that are like fucking it up and growing inwards. He also finds some plants who are like some cannabis plants because his dad was growing cannabis. His dad was passing away, and those are the plants we're talking about now. So I from memory, I think I had the plants growing in first, and then I was like, oh, he needs good plants as well as bad plants. So that's the inversion of the inversion on that side. But also, as you said before, he's super unlikable.
Gabriel?
Yeah, the protagonist. And so it was no. He needed something to be empathetic towards for the reader to stay with him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd be like, well, why am I reading this? I don't like this.
You don't think him punching the old woman in the face was enough to make him likable?
Depends on where you stand. On like slapping the shit out of a woman.
Correct.
Yeah. So he needed something to love, because that's what makes people love a character. So having him, because he was already completely incapable of taking care of himself, having him be able to take care of, as best he could, some cannabis plants seemed like a way of making him a little bit more likable. And then the last thing, there was a reason for those, is that his dad grew them, and they're the only living piece of him, I guess. So nurturing those is a way of rejecting grief, I guess. Yeah, just being like, no, fuck you, he's not dead, because the plants are alive.
The plants are alive.
Yeah. Which is best of luck to him.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tragic.
Yeah, he's
That
also
feels right.
He's also visited throughout the book by this brother and sister. What were the inspirations for these characters, and how do you think they affected Gabriel's reality? Every time I say Gabriel, I'm referencing
It's mad
book
confusing.
Gabriel.
Yeah. The
Well,
boy and the girl characters.
yeah.
I added them quite late. I got really into. Have you seen what is it? A Serious Man? That Coen Brothers movie?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
A Serious Man. Yeah. Do you remember the scene at the beginning with where what's it like? There's like an old couple in like Eastern Europe, and they're visited by a Dibber, which is like kind of Jewish ghost. Yeah. So I got really into that movie, and I was like, oh, this is kind of to do with what my book is about, because to like create a Dibber, someone's funeral rites have to go unfinished. Yeah. And that felt like a really good analogy for the grieving process to me. I'm really into where ghosts and ideas about trauma overlap, or trauma in inverted commas, like grief and sadness. Yeah. Like, so to think about an unfinished funeral rites, that's kind of how grieving feels, I think. So I wanted to add these two kind of half spectral characters to play that part, basically.
I think they also felt like kind of the only thing in the book that was just inherently his, like it just existed
Exactly,
for him, and they were his.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no other character sees them. That's that's quite important to their status. Yeah. Should I not spoil?
No, I think it's okay. I think this conversation is a spoiler, but I hope people still want to read it. This novel is kind of part ghost story, part grief story, all within the format of a classic Gothic novel. Did you have any Gothic references that you leaned on when writing this? You know, because you have sort of all the key elements, like the deterioration and these sort of bad omens that keep showing up.
Yeah. Have you read Blue Light Screen by Claire Cronin? That's really. Are you into Gothic fiction?
I am.
Yeah, you should check this out. Cause, it's half. What do you call it when it's like autobiography? I guess it's autobiography. Like half a novel about this woman's relationship with horror movies, and half about kind of horror theory or like Gothic theory, and it's very cool. It's very staccato. It's very. It's very smart. It's a very smart book. So that, but obviously like Rebecca, Yellow Wallpaper, all the Du Maurier actually. I love that stuff. Like even the like semi-Gothic stuff, like Patricia Highsmith is like. I love that stuff where it's not quite Gothic. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. And you have this wonderful quote from the book, "People die in the strangest ways once they're done living." And this is in reference to the Russian oligarch art collector who randomly dies in a boating accident after defiling hundreds of art pieces with his own semen. You know, there are sort of all these different stories within the story. You have the screenplay, you have the manuscript. Do you prefer or maybe find ease writing stories closer to you, or going off into these sort of offshoot stories that live within your novel?
I think the subject matter has to be chosen by the purpose, right? Like so, with the oligarch part, I needed something in there that was to do with kind of really pointed very directly at that there can be beauty in desecration, even if it's incredibly ugly. I don't really care about subject matter that much. My absolute dream is to be able to write a novel that is just jumps through time and character and perspective without caring about any of that stuff. Like to disconnect plot and story completely. That's what I would really like to do. Because I've got like terrible ADHD. So like being fixed in one place. Really, yeah. Yeah, so being fixed in one place would just is so boring. And that stuff should serve whatever you're trying to say. Like, you've got to be interested in everything and everyone and every historical perspective, whether it's you or
the Russian oligarch.
Yeah, or a guy you've made up.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite chapter from the book?
No, I really like the ending. Whichever part I've read the longest time away.
Mm-hmm. Have you read it in its entirety recently?
Every time I edited it. Oh, no, not recently actually. Okay. Yeah, I put it down for so long.
Yeah. Probably the thing to do.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Your forthcoming novel, The Complete, is based on your O. Henry Prize-winning short story. Do you prefer writing in shorter format or writing novels, or do you feel more freedom in one format versus the other?
I'm absolutely a novel guy. Yeah. That's my format. Yeah. I only write short stories as like exercise to stay fit, basically. The Complete is like the first chapter of that book.
And now I'm going to ask you a kind of easy question, but that I like to ask everyone, and I think it's very telling. What is the book that you've gifted the most to people? It's either Catcher in the Rye, because I'm like the oldest of all my cousins. Okay. You're educating me.
You gotta read that, yeah. And you also want to be the cool older cousin who gives that to people.
Yeah, true.
It's either that or but I know you did this book in your book club, so it sounds so brown nosy, but it's Bob Joss Roosters, which I absolutely fucking love and is mad underread.
I know.
Yeah.
And Jonah carries it here, actually.
Do you?
Don't you have a first edition, or you had a first
edition?
edition?
I've got a first edition.
He just sold the first edition, not to me, but...
that book fucking rules. Yeah.
I love that you said that. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and then if you're willing and want to, would you care to read an excerpt from your novel? I don't know what you're going to read, and I'm very excited to start. Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And reminding everyone they can buy the book at the bar afterwards.
This one seems good. So the protagonist's annoying brother and his wife are trying to sell the house that belonged to the protagonist's parents. And they've warned him prior about an estate agent coming around to do a valuation, but he's kind of forgotten. When the estate agent arrived, I was asleep. I thought about not letting them in. They knocked on the door 3 times, but I knew that my brother would be angry if I did not let them in. So I went downstairs and opened the door. "Wrong house," I said. "Sorry." The estate agent was tall and thin and young, maybe younger than me. He was wearing a suit. His estate agent car was parked where the boy and girl's car was parked before. Inside, the television said, "A combined formula of 17 ingredients designed to combat aging in normal skin." I'm sorry if I'm disturbing you, he said. I'm from Barnard Marcus. We have a visit scheduled. I didn't say anything for a long time. For the valuation, he said. I don't know any Marcuses, I said. That's the company name. That is not my name. I think you have the wrong address, I said. No, he said, I have the right address. Inside, I followed him while he walked around the house. He valued the downstairs first. He had a small iPad, which he used to take photographs and tap information into. In the hallway, he took a picture of paint flaking off a wall, leaving a little pile of shards of house below it. He bent and touched a small electronic box against the skirting board below where the paint was coming off. Something lit up red on the box. What's that? I said. This measures water levels in walls. Damp. Right, I said. Damp. We went into the kitchen. It smelled more of cannabis and cigarette smoke than the rest of the house. There were ashtrays and empty alcohol containers on the counters surrounded by small spillages. He didn't notice or pretended not to notice. I got a cold beer out of the expensive fridge. You want a beer? I said. No thanks, he said. Do people get the fridge when they buy a house? Or do you have to bring your own fridge? Usually people will bring their own fridge. This is an expensive fridge. Write that down. Write expensive fridge. I'm not going to write that, he said. This could be a bedroom, he said, in my father's study. I had barely been in there. It was dark because the curtains were closed. There were piles of papers and an empty ashtray on the large dark wood desk. The estate agent sniffed the air. Fungus, he said to himself. We went upstairs. My parents had converted my brother's bedroom into my mother's study. But they left my bedroom as was. I did not know how to interpret that. Probably they didn't think about it the same way I thought about it. This is your bedroom, he said, gesturing around all my childhood and teenage stuff, which was still there. What's it to you? I said, in a Robert De Niro mafia guy voice. What? He said. Nothing, I said. I took a long drink from the beer. And there's a third floor, he said. No, I said, there's no third floor. I saw the stairs, he said. So why do you ask? Look, he said, I know selling a house is an emotional time, especially if it was your childhood home. He gestured at all my toys. So what? I said. But you need to let me do my job, he said. Do your job, I said. You fucking parasite. What the fuck? My brother said later on the phone. Seriously, what the fuck? He hit me first, I said. He said you did not hit him at all, my brother said. He said you missed. That's bullshit, I said. My head hurt from hitting the wall and then the floor when I fell. I got a couple of good ones in the melee. And he said the house was not clean, said my brother's wife, who was on the phone too, somehow. Fucking Jesus, she said. Fucking Jesus, I'm so angry. What the fuck have you been doing this whole time? He hit me first, I said. We should sue them. We should sue Marcus. They should sue us. They should sue you, Jesus fucking Christ. We're going to have to find another agent. Oh no, I said. What the fuck have you been doing this whole time? Yes. Okay. Cool.
Thank you everyone who came here.